Hi, I'm Dave Epstein, and welcome to this edition of Growing Wisdom. Today we're talking about some of my favorite perennials for the garden. So a perennial is one of those plants that you put in once, hopefully it comes back every year because you're taking care of it. We're going to go around the garden center. We're at Valenti Farms here today, and I'm just going to pick some random plants that I really like that I grow in my own garden, and we'll talk a little bit about them. The first one I want to talk about is the Bergenia, and I really like this plant. Now this is fairly small. It's in a container. It's a 2-quart container. The leaves are really nice and glossy, and it gets a really neat flower that comes up very early in the spring. I like growing this plant because, number one, it flowers early. Number two, it can handle quite a bit of shade, although it likes some morning sun. And also, it's semi-evergreen. So in this particular climate, zone 6, the leaves stay green most of the winter. So another plant to look for that can be a little bit temperamental, but I really like adding to the garden, is called Euphorbia. And we've got two here. You can see that they look very different. So this Euphorbia has the yellow flowers. This flower here is almost a pale white or a pale yellow. And you can see also the foliage is very different. You've got the bluish green foliage and then the darker green foliage. Euphorbia tend to like it on the drier side. They also tend to like full sun to part sun. They're not going to do very well in shade. Some are only hardy zone 7 and 8, while others are hardier zone 4, 5, and 6. So we're under the shade cloth here because these are the shade plants, and there's many different varieties of plants you can grow in the shade. Some of you may have a lot of shade and think you can't get things to bloom. I think one of the easiest things to get to bloom in the shade, as long as you have a little bit of moisture, is the Dicentra or bleeding heart. And the traditional bleeding heart is the pink one with the white drooping off of it. But there's several new varieties. There's all white varieties, which isn't so new. There's this one called Valentine, which has a little bit of a redder heart. You can understand why they called it Valentine. So the bleeding hearts will come back every year. It's got this great foliage. The one thing about the bleeding heart is after about mid-July into early August, it tends to disappear. So it sort of goes dormant in the heat of the summer. I like to put something tall behind my bleeding heart that will hide the gap later in the summer. There's also a group of plants known as Heuchera or Heucherella, two different varieties. And you really grow these for the foliage color. So the flowers are rather insignificant, but you can see that they're going to hold this great color all year long. So if you're in sort of a dappled shade or part sun, any of these particular plants will give a pop to the garden. That's why I love them. So this particular one is called Buttered Rum, and that's one of my favorites because look at how that nice orange color there. And what I like to do is mix them. So you've got the buttered rum here, we've got this nice yellow. So you could do a mix of the different plants and the different leaf textures and colors and really create a palette without anything really flowering. So the last two plants I want to talk about come with a caveat. And the caveat is these can really overtake a space. They're very aggressive. If you put this plant near your lawn, eventually it's going to be in your lawn. And what is it? It's oat grass. So be very careful with it. Beautiful plant, I like it, good for erosion control, but again, it's a thug. The other thug in the garden is Lily of the Valley, and some people love these and it has the great white flower and the scent is amazing, but these will run and spread. If you have an area that's really wide in the shade that you don't care what goes in there, maybe it's just really barren, you got nothing to grow, but remember, over time, this is going to spread rapidly and eventually create a mat. You will not get it out of your garden, so if you put it in, it's for a long time. For Growing Wisdom, I'm Dave Epstein.